Keep yourself in the loop of everything football. Listen to Alex and Jeremiah on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Hello there, I'm Jeremiah.
I am Alex, always and forever here.
Dedicated to college and NFL football. The latest football news on and off the field. NFL draft trade rumors. We've got you covered from the NFL, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC, and everything else in between. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, where we talk the latest news, rumors, and games of the NFL and college football, from the latest signings to this year's breakout stars and all of the news in between. As always, I am Alex.
And I'm Jeremiah. What's up, people? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to everybody out there. October 24th, we're coming at you from the GSMC Podcast Network, and it is early, but that doesn't mean we're not going to give you the best and the brightest news there is. We're going to talk NFL scores from this weekend. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back and preview the Monday night game between the Broncos and the Texans,
a.k.a. the Brock Osweiler Bowl.
Yeah, the revenge of Brock Osweiler. I can't wait to hope he is outplayed by the man that was taken in the 7th round that was his backup last year. I would love to see that. Then we'll take a last break, and of course we'll come back. And as every Monday, we will look at the updated and new AP Top 25 poll. But first, we're going to start in the NFL, and we're going to cover some games. So, of course, the first game of the weekend was Giants-Rams over there in London, England. It was not in Wembley. It was in a stadium that they have never played a football game in before.
I think it's called Twickenham Stadium?
I will tell you. I was going to tell you.
I
will tell you in a second.
I couldn't figure out the name.
That's okay. No. It is Twickenham or Twickenham. I don't know how. Twickenham or Twickenham Stadium. It is in London, of course. A little different than
Wembley.
It's a little open. Get some air. You had about 74,121 in terms of an attendance, but it can hold 82,500 people. So not half people, but 82,500. Case Keenum, 291 yards passing, 1 touchdown. 4 interceptions. I repeat, 4 interceptions. Is it time for Goff to come on? They have a bye week coming up. Jeff Fisher said pretty straight up, I'd make changes to the receiving core before I would make changes to the quarterback. He seems pretty adamant about not bringing Goff in if that's an indication if he's ready or not. If he's ready, do you put him in?
Oh, by far. This is the time to implement Jared Goff into your team. You have a bye week. You got 2 weeks for your next opponent. What better time?
You've dropped 3 straight.
Exactly. What better time to put in your number 1 pick from this past spring than right now? You're off a 3-game losing streak, like you said. Case Keenum played practically his worst game after playing his best game.
Yep. Some of his problems is 2 of those picks were not his fault.
That is true. They weren't.
In a way, they were, because he has always been a guy to throw in too tight of coverage, and when you do that, the possibility for mistakes grow higher. How long do you think it takes to become an issue, if it is an issue, where the front office is like, listen, this is our first overall pick, this is our money guy, this is our star for the new city, put him in. You know what I mean? Maybe it's going to get there. I don't know. I don't know how the front office and the coaching staff coexist, as much as I saw in Hard Knocks, Who's to say it might not get to that point? So, moving on, the Chiefs defeat the Saints 27-21, despite Drew Brees' best effort, throwing for 367 and 3 scores. Spencer Ware had a pretty good day, 77 yards on the ground, no touchdowns, but he did have a long wide receiver screen for a touchdown, as a matter of fact. So, impressive day from him as well. He just keeps moving. Chiefs moved to 4-2 on the year, and they're 3-0, undefeated at home. Saints dropped to 2-4, and they're currently losing it on the road 1-2. The Titans cannot win at home, especially with Marcus Mariota under center. They lose this one to the Colts 34-26 behind Andrew Luck's big day, 353 and 3. T.Y. Hilton responsible for 133 yards of those, receiving for him and a touchdown. DeMarco Murray, though, did try his best, 107, that's a big day. 107 big day. On 25 carries for 1 touchdown for him. The Titans just cannot win at home. The Eagles, Eagles fly, defeat the Vikings 21-10. to give the Vikings their first loss of the year. These teams were combined a 3-turnover team if they were one single team throughout the entire year, and there was 5 within the first 2 quarters.
Yeah, this was a pretty ugly game for both offenses here. And man, when I watched some of this game right here, when the Vikings were in goal line situations, they had no answer to score on those situations.
Yeah, they looked stumped. They looked oh god.
That's when I realized that this team misses Adrian Peterson. They didn't look like it before.
Yeah.
Now they do.
Yeah, well, the Eagles are a good defense.
They are a good defense. To that credit, they are. But when you don't have anybody for those type of situations, like how far can you really go? And that's interesting for me to say, but that's something that really brought up my attention.
Yeah.
And because we never seen like them missing Adrian Peterson until now.
Well, and end of the year he was out, but they had the entire they knew he was going to miss that year after he got hurt. It was pretty early, I believe, and they knew he was out the entire year, and they really prepared for it. No, but watching these turnovers, it was Bradford threw a pick in the end zone, ball goes out to 20, and then Mr. Perfect threw before his bye week. Wentz throws an interception, then they get down there and strip sack for Bradford that looks like it goes for a touchdown and comes back because he was touched on the ground, and then a fumble, and then the Vikings get the ball back, and then it was just wacky. It was really wacky.
Yeah,
but,
it was a very ugly game.
Yeah, it was. But 21-10 in favor of the Eagles. They moved to 4-2 and 3-0 at home. The Vikings again get their first loss of the year, 5-1 for them. Moving on to the Bengals and the Browns game. The Bengals win this one 31-17 over the Browns, who are still winless. But this goes back to the Jared Goff conversation. We have fun. We talk about all the rookie passers that have gotten to play before Jared Goff. Add another one to the list with Stanford's own Kevin Hogan.
Yes, he put it on the wheels yesterday.
I was going to mention him because he was coming in as a Wildcat quarterback with Kessler, as he was still, Kessler was still healthy. But Kessler unfortunately went down. He took a shot late. I think it was going actually under concussion stuff, so he didn't come back in the game. Hogan played okay, passing 100 yards through 2 picks, kind of missed high. We see why he wasn't a high quarterback drafted, but he was the leading rusher for the Browns. 104 yards and a touchdown. A nice touchdown run too.
Yeah, 28 yards. Yeah, he looked really good on that touchdown run.
He did. Dalton led the way though, 308 and 2 for him, and then Jeremy Hill 168 and 1, 80 yards and 1 touchdown for Giovanni Bernard. Fantasy owners hold their breath currently as Hill left the game with an injury to what looked like his arm. We'll see if there's any news coming from there soon on his injury in the next few days. The Lions defeat the Redskins 20-17, a late touchdown score from Matthew Stafford, who is playing absolutely lights out lately. He is playing as one of the best quarterbacks in the game right now. Jaguars lose another one to the Raiders, who are still undefeated on the road. 5-2 for the Raiders, defeating the Jaguars, who now moved to 2-4, 33-16. And I'm sorry, I meant to mention Redskins and Lions both moved to 4-3.
Yeah, and getting back to this Raiders and Jaguars game.
Yeah.
If the season would have ended today, the Raiders would be the number 2 seed in the AFC.
Yep, right behind the Patriots. It'd be them. There would be the Patriots, the Raiders, and I think the Steelers in that order. But the Steelers would, I think they would come in as their own division winner. They'd be the 3rd seed. Moving on, the Dolphins defeat the Bills in what ended closer than the game kind of portrayed itself. 28-25. The Bills scored a couple late there to kind of close the gap, but the game was almost decided there late. Another huge day from Jay Ajayi of the Dolphins. 28 carries, 214 yards, and a touchdown. He joins Ricky Williams, O.J. Simpson, and Earl Campbell as the only rushers to do so back-to-back, and being the 200 yards or more in back-to-back games.
Yeah, he is for real.
Well, we'll have to see.
I think he is, because that doesn't happen a lot.
It doesn't. I mean, we saw the last person to do so was Ricky Williams, and that was back in the early 2000s.
Yeah, and the Buffalo Bills were actually a pretty solid defense that he played against. So I'm not going to say J.J. is going to have like 200 yards rushing every game, but yeah. I think he's going to be solid enough for the Dolphins to
win some games
moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, the Dolphins go to play the Jets after their bye week. So it'll be interested to see what he can do against them.
That's a tough matchup right there.
Yeah, the Bills dropped to 4-3 on the year, and then flip-flop. The Dolphins moved to 3-4. Moving on, the Jets win one at home and moved to 2-5 over the Ravens, who dropped to 3-4. This game was started by Geno Smith. Everybody's like, man, he played great. No, he didn't. He had one long touchdown pass that was mainly responsible as a pass to a long run by Quincy Enunwa for 69 yards for him. Otherwise, he would have completed 3 passes, 3 of 7 for roughly like 30 yards. And no, that's not great. He ended up getting hurt. He hurt his knee. Ryan Fitzpatrick came in, threw for 120 yards and a score. You know, be interested to see if Geno is healthy, who's going to start next week, because Fitzpatrick didn't do himself any favors in the post-game press conference saying, you know, I'm used to people losing faith in me, blah, blah, blah. He's kind of just got to be quiet at that point. But we'll see who starts next week.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say who's going to start, because I thought Ryan Fitzpatrick was going to start this game, and he didn't. So who knows? Who knows? You never know. They might get Christian Hackenberg in there. Who knows?
Maybe.
The
Buccaneers win one on the road over the Niners, who just looked helpless in this game. 3-3 for the Buccaneers, and the Niners, just dropped to 1-6. They scored and were up at the end of the first, 14-0, and literally didn't score again until the fourth quarter. They lost 34-17. I had a friend of mine, grew up in my neighborhood, a couple years younger than me, so I always keep an eye on him, you know, see how he's doing and all that. He's a diehard Niner fan, and he goes, man, Kaepernick's back after the first quarter. I was like, slow it down, Mom. Slow it down. They're playing the Buccaneers for one, and it's 14-0. And then, of course, they barely scored any more points. Kaepernick, of course, had 143 yards passing, a touchdown, and a pick. Yeah, he had 84 yards rushing, but it's the Buccaneers. You know, they're not the best defense. When you find holes, you know, Manziel's done the same thing, and that guy sucks too. He took too many sacks, 4 for 30 yards minus for him. Not good in many people's eyes. 269 yards for Winston, 3 touchdowns from him, and a big day from Jacquizz Rodgers, formerly of the Falcons.
Who is on my fantasy team?
Yeah, a career high for him. 26 for 154 yards. No scores for him. Peyton Barber added that on the ground with 84 yards of its own and that touchdown. But the Niners, again, just can't get it done at home.
They are the most embarrassing team in the NFL. This team cannot play defense. They can't play offense. I was watching this game, unfortunately, and there's no one in that crowd. Like, even when they were
people leave, man.
Even when they were up 14-0, there was like no noise at all. So I'm like, is there any fans in here? Like,
yeah, people don't care right now, man.
No, and I wouldn't be surprised. Like, why would you care if your team is a bad product?
Mm-hmm. Excuse me. Moving on. The aforementioned Jacquizz Rodgers and his former team, the Falcons, took on a also current California team in the Chargers. The Chargers win this one in a close game, goes to overtime, game-winning field goal by Josh Lambo. They're 33-30 in favor of the Chargers, who moved to 3-4 on the year. Falcons dropped to 4-3. Phillip Rivers is playing lights out with nobody around him. 371 and a touchdown for him. Melvin Gordon, not the most rushing yards, only 68, but he did score twice. Julio Jones doing Julio Jones things, 174 yards receiving for him.
Yeah, and it looks like the Falcons, we even talked about on the show.
They're slowing down.
They're slowing down again. And I really thought this team was legit, and I can't even say that anymore. Mm-hmm. But they're in a division where everyone else is bad, so I'll give them that. That's why I think they will still be a playoff team.
Yeah, I do too.
But the fact that, you know, they're letting all these leads slip away, and this was the Chargers. You know, the Chargers they're a talented team, but remember, this was a team that
they just find ways to lose games.
They find ways to lose games, and they're just slowing down. We saw this last year too, but I do think the Falcons will be all right moving forward because no one in that division is playing good right now.
Exactly.
I know the Bucks won yesterday, but come on, they played the Niners.
And they're still in last place.
And the Panthers are 1-5. And then
actually, they might be in last place, actually.
Yeah, and then the Saints are 2-4. So, they'll be fine.
And don't look now. The Chargers are back-to-back winners over the Broncos and the Falcons, and they go to face the Broncos again next weekend. You know, see if there's a revenge game for the Broncos.
Big game.
Moving on, the Patriots defeat the Ben Roethlisberger-less Steelers 27-16, but the Steelers got a decent performance there from Landry Jones, 281 in a score. Antonio Brown, I believe, his best game sans Ben Roethlisberger, 106 for him on 7 receptions. LeGarrette Blount, though, led the way 127-2 for the Patriots, and the Steelers just could not capitalize on turnovers. They got 2 fumbles, one by Chris Hogan at the beginning of the game, on literally the first play, I believe, and one on a punt by Julian Edelman, but they could not score, missed a couple field goals, not to say they were easy field goals. 54-yarder, it's a tough one there for Boswell, and then a shorter one that he doesn't normally miss, but it was still about 40 yards, so a tough game there.
And speaking of missed field goals, that leads it to the
Sunday night game. I would say, certainly, last but not least, we moved to
last but very least.
I was trying to trick him. We moved to the nightcap, the game of the weekend,
quote
unquote, Seahawks versus Cardinals. I'm going to tell you the records now. The Seahawks moved to 4-1. And 1, and the Cardinals 3-3-1. We had a tie in the NFL last night, 6-6, despite Carson Palmer throwing for 342 yards, despite David Johnson running for 113 yards, despite both of these teams in overtime getting within their 15 to go and score. These teams lose and win, and not either because they tie. We had a missed kick from Catanzaro of about 34, and a missed, he could have kneed the ball in from there, a 28-yarder from Stephen Hauschka, 2 of the better kickers in the league. I'll give Catanzaro his credit. He deemed it off the upright. It is weird. He kicked it, and the ball hit it and just died. It stopped spinning. It just died, like their hopes of winning. And then Stephen Hauschka yanked his thing harder than a joystick on a PlayStation. He kicked that thing so hard left. It was like, I can't even explain like what happened with him. I don't get it. But they go, the Cardinals get the ball first, they kick a field goal. They're in great position. Then the Seahawks drive hard down the field. And one thing too is the Cardinals didn't kick a field goal from far. They almost scored a touchdown. They got to like the 2 or whatever it was.
Yeah, they did. And then
there was a penalty or something.
They ran the ball with David Johnson, and there was a play before they kicked that, or that attempted that field goal, where David Johnson looked like he scored.
Yep.
They didn't even review it or anything like that, and from the looks of it,
it was pretty close, but I don't believe he did.
It was pretty close. You say that he didn't score.
His foot touched the pylon, which is something that's touching the ground, which is a extension once it touches your body of being out of bounds. So once he touched that, he was ruled out, and the ball was not quite to the pylon yet.
Yeah,
so that's my call.
It was literally a game of inches last night.
Excuse me, and then they end up missing the field goal, and then they look to be in good position, and then Russell Wilson and Doug Baldwin do Russell Wilson and Doug Baldwin Seahawks things. Looks like the Seahawks are going to, quote, Seahawk another win out. My brother, I told you, has that saying where they just find ways to win even after playing like garbage, 3-3 regulation, ending game. And they get all the way down within their 10, all the way down the Doug Baldwin long catch and run, and the worst, kick miss in terms of Hauschka there, just yank. I don't know what happened with him, but they have like, I think 8 seconds left.
Yeah,
and they get a catch on the sideline, and then to be fair, Carson Palmer threw that ball from the 45 on his side of the field, if not a little bit behind it, and reached the end zone. He gunned that thing down.
Yeah,
there. His 36-year-old arm got it all the way down there.
To be fair, that was impressive.
Yeah, I was like, he threw that, and I was like,
I really
man, is
thought
that gonna reach? And I was like,
we were gonna have play of the year at that point.
I was like, oh my lord, because I was like, how far are you throwing this thing? It was impressive.
I was kind of hoping that for a Hail Mary there at the end.
I kind of was too.
I was like, well, if there's a Hail Mary and a game-winning touchdown, then that means this game will not be a disaster.
But it was. It was 6-6 finish. This is like a baseball score.
I know.
Not obviously a tie.
I was okay.
Like Ben said, it's like a
I
baseball
tuned into
score.
the game late, right?
Uh-huh.
And I saw the score 3-0, and I was like, okay. And then I looked what quarter it was. That was the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
I was like 3-0 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Am I watching baseball here?
Exactly. It was 3-0 in halftime, and then the Seahawks kicked a field goal like late, too. Late to tie it up.
And David Johnson had 150 yards of total yards from scrimmage, and
Carson Palmer 342 yards. Like
and
those
still
are good offensive numbers.
They had like 90 plays last night, and they
I'll
barely
tell you how many
muster out
points they
6
had.
points.
Yeah, I don't
This is a team that we thought, well, at least I did, was a Super Bowl contender, and they look like they're about to go over 300. I think for the first or second time this year. Yeah, and all I gotta say about the overtime rules,
I like them.
I think
I don't dislike them.
they need to find a way. The NFL needs to find a way to avoid these ties. I know they're rare.
I don't dislike the overtime. I like it a lot better than college. I think the way they changed it gives it a lot of precedence.
No, I don't like the way that the college rules for an NFL, because you have to start on the 20.
Yeah, I don't really like.
I don't
college
like that.
I like it the way college is set up, but it wouldn't work in the NFL.
I like the college overtime rules for college.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
if it's that scheme, but I like how they have to drive all the way down the field to score for the NFL.
I don't mind the overtime rules.
Like we need to have some way to avoid ties. I don't like ties in the NFL.
Well, they don't happen a lot. I mean,
I know it's rare, but
really
they need to find a way to do it.
Here's a way: make your field goals. There's a way. How about that? Score your touchdowns. They had 90 total plays, like you said. They had 443 yards. And the Cardinals I'm talking about here.
They could have won by 20.
Exactly.
It looks like they should have won by 20.
Yeah, they literally almost had 200 yards more than the Seahawks. They should have won this game handedly. You look at these numbers and you go, oh, Palmer had 300 and blah 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 yards passing, and you go, oh, how many touchdowns do you have?
They dominated the game.
Exactly. So, like I'm saying, you look at it, you say, oh, Palmer had 342 yards passing, and go, oh, how many touchdowns did he have? David Johnson, 113 yards rushing. Oh, how many touchdowns did he have? Like none, bro. Like
None.
This game shouldn't have been a tie. So let's put it this way: this game shouldn't have been a tie. There's nothing the NFL needs to change.
It shouldn't have even gone into overtime.
Exactly. Yeah. So what I'm saying is the overtime works perfectly, especially the way they changed it. Field goal, other team has a chance to beat you. Touchdown, game's over. Same as it ever was. Ties are much more rare than they seem to be when we get around to them again. We're like, oh man, here we go. They're much more rare than they really occur. I think it hasn't happened for like 2-3 seasons. But one stat I do like: the Seahawks, they moved to 4-1 before we take our break. They are 1-1 and 1 away. Win 1, lost 1, tied 1. Good job, guys. Anyways,
they are still 500 on the road.
Yes, they still 500 on the road. Technically speaking, now the Cardinals are 2-2 and 1 on at home.
And they're still 500 at home.
Yeah, because they didn't lose one. All right, let's take our first break. We'll come back. We're going to preview tonight's Monday Night Football game between the Houston Texans and the home Denver Broncos, the current Super Bowl defending champions, and a familiar face showing up on the Denver side. So we'll take a break. We'll come back, and we're going to preview that game here in just a moment at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And we're back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. We're going to preview tonight's show, game, and escapades that are going to ensue, I'm sure, with the Denver Broncos hosting the Houston Texans and the former Brock Osweiler quarterback at one point, a few games there, of the Broncos. I was telling Ben, you think he's going to get his ring tonight? Do you think they're going to give him his ring? Has he got his ring yet? Do you think they can give him a Super Bowl ring? Oh, man. He's having a subpar season so far. 8 touchdowns, 8 picks. Trevor Siemian should be starting this game, I do believe. 7 touchdowns for him, 3 interceptions, but he's playing well. He is starting this game, as a matter of fact. DeMarcus Ware is still out, but otherwise it looks like they're going to get the guys they need out there. Brock Osweiler, on the other hand, playing okay. Not amazing. They're kind of middle pack. Definitely showing that the Broncos might have made the right decision not giving him all that money. I definitely think he's probably worth the money they wanted to give him as opposed to the money that Texans gave him. But I personally would think it would be very suiting if Trevor Siemian, former 7th-round pick, backup of him and Peyton Manning, so at one time the third stringer, backup to him at one point as well, just outplayed him in every facet of the game. I don't really care who wins this game. Doesn't matter to me. But I think that would be fitting. I think he'll get booed.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I think Osweiler will get booed.
He will.
I think
he did leave that franchise for a
cash grab.
Yeah, exactly. He took the money and ran.
Exactly. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if he gets booed hardcore tonight. And I'm going to have to give this one to the Broncos.
Yeah, I have to pick the Broncos too because this is a huge game for the Broncos here. And, the Raiders are now at 5-2, sitting atop of the AFC West. Mm-hmm. So they have to keep pace with the Raiders, so to speak. Who would have thought to say that now? Keeping pace with the Raiders for the division lead.
Yeah, keeping pace with what? Losses?
Exactly. You would have thought. I would have said that. So if Broncos lose this game, they're in second place. Raiders are in first place at 5-2. Mm-hmm. And I think they have to play each other, next week or in 2 weeks for that matter.
The Raiders and the Broncos?
Yeah, in 2 weeks on Sunday Night Football.
Keep on talking. I'll tell you right. Yeah. That's a Sunday night game?
It's a Sunday night game, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
The Raiders playing Sunday night. You're right.
They scheduled that too. Yeah, it's not a flex game. No. They scheduled that.
They got the Texans this week, and then they have their rematch against the Chargers after their disappointing loss. See if they can get revenge on that one, and then they play the Raiders.
Yeah, so
2 games. Technically, excluding today, 2 games from now.
So this is a very important game until that matchup. And you touched on it, like Brock Osweiler has returned to Denver after taking that contract from the Houston Texans this past spring. Mm-hmm. Who needed a quarterback, by the way? I didn't know
they did. Yeah,
they did.
Don't forget that.
To be fair, they did need a quarterback. Remember, this is a team that went to the playoffs with Brian Hoyer. This is a team that went to the playoffs with Brian Hoyer. So
4 interceptions later.
That should tell you something.
Yeah. Good defense. Excuse me.
And then this team, the Houston Texans, they are a very good team, but I don't think they're as good as the Broncos are.
No. Better offense for the Broncos, I think, and better defense right now. Both teams 4-2. Again, I'm going to have to give this one to the Broncos.
Yeah, me too. Don't get me wrong. The Houston Texans are still the best team in the AFC South, but that's not saying a lot.
What are the chances that we get another tie?
If that happens again, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself.
No?
I cannot stand to watch another tie. I can't do it, no.
Okay, I understand that.
Imagine if
I'll turn the game off.
If this game isn't a tie, imagine what the Jacksonville Jaguars and Tennessee Titans does for us on Thursday night.
Oh, man, they'll tie it nothing. That would be insane.
And I think the Titans are at home, too. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Currently, as it stands, the Broncos are favored 74.8% of a win there to 25 even for the Texans. So, most of America agrees with you and I, Jeremiah, and that's also according to ESPN's Football Power Index as well. Most people agree the Broncos are taking this one tonight. Of course, we'll be back to recap this game tomorrow and anything and everything relevant to that. But let's take our last break. We'll come back. We'll talk AP Top 25, and we'll, get out of here or something. I don't know. We'll have to see. Maybe we'll just stay here all day and just sort of like keep the record button on.
Speak for yourself.
All right, I will. But anyways, let's take that last break. We'll come back and we'll do what I just said we're going to do in a minute here at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
And we're back.
At the Golden State Media Concepts football podcast.
Nah, there you go. Double T.
Yeah.
We're going to cover the AP Top 25 today.
I know where we were going with that. I was like,
that's okay.
What? Okay.
You read my mind, so we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're covering AP Top 25.
Yeah, we are. We had a major shakeup, so to speak. And we had, especially in the top 5, we're going to get right into it. So number 1 stays the same with Alabama after that blowout win against the Texas A&M.
Blowout. Like, it wasn't a blowout, but it was a handed win. Like, it. Okay. Let's just say a confident win.
33-14 is a blowout.
Yeah, I mean.
Maybe not for for Christmas Tide standards, but that was still a double-digit win for the Crimson Tide there in Alabama. And they stay at number 1. Do we have a new number 2?
And 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and 7.
Yeah, so much excitement.
Pretty much when 2 dropped, everybody jumped up like they fell like that. It's like when you're playing Tetris and you blow a block and they go, and they fall down. It's like that.
Yeah, so we got Michigan at number 2, Clemson at 3, Washington now at 4, who I think they control their own destiny now.
In a sense, I don't think so, actually. I'll tell you why.
And I want to talk about that too. And Louisville, they look like they still have a shot at the playoffs now.
I mean, at 5, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I still think they have a legit shot. I don't know if they'll get there, but they still have a shot. And for the number 6 team in the country, the Ohio State Buckeyes fall from 2-6 after that upset loss to the Penn State Nittany Lions on the road on Saturday night.
What did you call them?
Nittany. Yeah.
I was like, Nittany? What's that?
Nittany Lions.
There you go, yeah. To round out the top 10, you have Nebraska moving up 1 from 8 to 7. Baylor doing the same from 9 to 8. And then A&M dropping from 6 to 9 after that loss, like you mentioned. And then rounding out the top 10, West Virginia moving up 2 slots from 12 to 10. Now, about Washington. I think that, say, every single team in the top 5 goes undefeated the rest of the year, I could see Louisville jumping Washington because of the weak schedule Washington has. Yeah, Not only do they had to start the year, but has to finish the year.
Don't forget, Ohio State still has to play Michigan, so Ohio State could still win that game. And
then we could really see a shake.
And I think Ohio State is still the better team than Michigan, even though despite...
I agree with you on that. I could very well see that.
Despite, the ranking right now. And to be fair, Washington, their schedule is fairly easier than the rest of the top 5
They got Oregon State this week.
No, they got Utah.
Or Utah State this week.
They
have Utah next week.
Okay. Well, they looking at their schedule, looking forward. They do have Utah on the road.
Yeah.
They do have, I think, Cal on the road. They had USC at home, and then they have Washington State on the road for the Apple Cup, which is going to be probably the toughest game next to Utah.
That's what I say. So actually, Utah this week, who are 17, but I do think they're still better than Utah. Yeah, Cal, like you said, on the road, Washington or USC and Arizona State at home, and then like I was telling Ben.
Don't get me wrong. The Pac-12 is weaker in some sense.
In some sense, yeah.
But this is still a competitive conference, so
exactly,
I can see one of these teams very easily upsetting Washington. Because remember, this is still a young Washington team. This is a team that's being led by sophomores like Jake Browning, Miles Gaskins, and that whole receiver core there.
Yeah, I definitely think Utah and then Washington State probably have the best chance out of Utah, obviously being ranked 17 right now. Washington State, when you have your interstate rival, those games are always intense. It's for the Apple Cup. Both these teams are at conference undefeated. I mean, Washington State's 2 silly losses to Portland State and Boise, I think, this year, away from being undefeated.
Boise State's a good team.
No, but you know what I mean. Especially, Portland State or whatever it was. Eastern Washington, excuse me. Away from being undefeated.
Eastern Washington's a good FCS school, too.
But still, your Pac-12, you should beat them in that sense. And then, as I was going to mention later, but I might as well now, they received a lot of votes last week and this week to be ranked, Washington State. So they're right on the cusp there. Definitely 2 tough wins for them. I think that if they go undefeated and maybe every other team goes undefeated, excluding, obviously, Ohio State or Michigan, one of them will have to lose. But say the top 4 go undefeated and Louisville does too, I could really see possibly some of those people bumping Louisville up instead of Washington. And you can't argue with it. We saw more of a significant one with the Baylor TCU one a couple years ago.
Yeah. And I think the game that's going to give Washington trouble, I think it's going to be Cal on the road. I think that's going to be the game.
Ooh, okay, catalyst.
I think Cal might upset Washington. I think this is the team that's most likely going to upset Washington this season. Because remember, Cal, they score a lot of points. They can score 50 points.
They also give up a lot of points.
Exactly.
And Washington has a really good defense.
Exactly. So they can potentially score 50 points, but they're going to give up 60. So I do think that's the one team I think that could potentially give the Huskies problems. Utah, they are ranked, but they do have a lot of injuries on both sides of the ball there in Utah. Even though they had a really good win last week, I still think Washington is still a better team.
I do too.
USC, I think that
they're not what they have been.
They're not what they have been, but and then they have that game at home at Husky Stadium or at Century Lake Field where they play at. Yeah,
I forget where. Yeah. I never know the manner in which they do these games, like when they decide to have them at Century Lake or not. But I know whenever the Apple Cup's a home game for Washington, they play at Century Lake.
Yeah. Okay, so at the Apple Cup, though, I do think that's another tough game that Washington is going to face. So I do think
Thanksgiving, baby.
Yeah. So I do think Cal and Washington are the games that they can potentially get upset in the Pac. And not only that, there's also still the Pac-12 championship they still have to go through. But I still think they can win that easily.
Yeah, I think they'll be facing. I forget who they're going to be looking at.
They might face Utah.
Yeah, probably Utah. I mean, yeah, you look at the Washington and Washington State; they're very identical in terms of Falk has more yardage. Their touchdowns are very similar: 26-19, 5 interceptions to the 2 of Jake Browning. Their leading rushers, 4 touchdowns to 6 in favor, yardage-wise also of Washington, but obviously a big difference in style of offense. And then their 2 leading receivers, 486 and 470, 9 touchdowns, but 1 for River Craycraft, but he's not their touchdown guy as much as Gabe Marks is. So definitely interesting to see how that goes. A few more notables throughout the top 25. We have Boise State, still the lone, and again, the lone Mountain West representative, I should say. At 13, moving up from 14, we have Auburn jumping from 21 to 15. Oklahoma staying tight at 16 there. Utah moved up to 17 from 19. We have LSU jumping from 25 to 19. Western Michigan holding tight at 20. And then now ranked, so let me put it this way, Navy moving up 2 to 22.
And we got 3.
And then 3 now ranked.
Yeah, from 23 to 25. We got Colorado. Penn State
after their win.
And Virginia Tech.
The teams that did receive votes, like I said, Washington State. Houston received some, but they fell out this week. Oklahoma State received some. Arkansas, even Troy got some, but the schools drop out, like I said. Houston, Arkansas, and Ole Miss all dropped from the rankings this week.
How about the rise and fall of the Houston Cougars?
How about the rise and fall of Ole Miss?
How about that?
Both of those teams.
How about the rise and fall of those teams? I thought these were for sure in top 10 teams the whole entire year. Yeah, and I can't believe it. This is the beauty of college football. You got all these upsets, and you have to play pretty much good football every week. That's the thing I like about college football. All these teams, they always go out any given Saturday.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just telling Ben, any day another team can beat a team. So
exactly. That's the thing I like about college football.
Yeah. But like I mentioned a lot when these were early lists. It's getting to the big time now. It's getting to when the list really matters. So of course we'll keep looking at that. We'll keep monitoring, and we will let you know whenever and always that there is a big drop or rise in this list.
Yeah, I think we got at least like one more month, at least,
roughly,
for the regular season. So we're getting to the prime time of college football right now.
I like that, prime time of college football. Well, until then, as always, Jeremiah and I will be back tomorrow. We will recap Monday Night Football. We will talk all the news and everything worth talking about on Tuesday, as Tuesday is usually a wacky in terms of news. You got injury news and all that kind of updated stuff because it is a couple days after the games end. So we will do that. But until then, we are done today.
Yes, we are.
We'd like to thank you guys for listening. As always, we'll both be back tomorrow. But Anthony will be joining us on Wednesday. For Anthony, we'd like to thank you for listening. I'm Alex.
I'm Jeremiah.
And we will see you guys tomorrow. You enjoy Monday Night Football, and you guys enjoy your sports in general. We'll see you then.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gshmc.com. GSMCpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.